friends. This is Pastor Larry and the show From the Front Lines. Thank you for being with us. Today is Tuesday, November the 24th, 2020. I did want to let you know what's been going on around here. We had recently 9 days without power. And then to add to that, we were closed a week last week because one of our workers came down with COVID-19. He and his family were tested positive. They are fully recovered. But we're back. And like I say, it is From the Front Lines. And I do want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. You know, the Pilgrims who came here were Puritans. They wanted to purify the church. And a lot of the stuff that you see on PBS, it says, well, they wanted to do religion their own way. It sounds like they were a bunch of nutcases. They were not. They loved the Bible. They wanted to get back to the Word of God. They wanted to purify the church. Which church? The Church of England. But the Church of England wouldn't be purified. And you know the story, Henry VIII broke with Rome because the Pope would not annul his marriage to his wife, Catherine. She could not provide him with a male heir. He had another wife in mind, Anne Boleyn. The Puritans were persecuted by King Henry VIII. Their churches were closed and pastors were arrested. And it sounds to me like some of the Democrat-run states in America. Whenever the government mandates church closures, we have a problem. And I wish that Christians would realize how serious it is for the government, local government, city government, municipality, the state government, the national government, say you can't have church. So the Puritans went to Holland to enjoy religious liberty. They were there for about 10 years. They did enjoy religious liberty, but there was another problem. Dutch society was so corrupt that the Puritans felt that they were losing their kids and they were being watered down by a corrupt society, so they left and they came to the United States. There were actually two ships that left, but one, the Speedwell, had some leaking problems, so they took on extra passengers and all got on the Mayflower and crossed the Atlantic. Now, these people really believed in the importance of religious liberty. Let me tell you about the Mayflower. It was 110 feet in length. What? 110 feet. I mean, ships today that cross the ocean are 800, 900, 1,000, 1,100 feet. This little thing was 110 feet in length, no engines, no modern navigational equipment. If the sky was cloudy, they couldn't see the sun, the moon, or the stars. They didn't know where they were. And halfway on their trip to the New World, there was a tremendous storm. It was so violent that the main beam of the Mayflower suffered great damage. And if the main beam breaks, the whole ship falls apart. So it had to be repaired at sea. They arrived in November of 1620, actually 400 years ago. And they came up with the Mayflower Compact, an experiment in self-government. It was the basis of our Constitution. It was such a wonderful thing. God was in the Mayflower and with the Puritans who were seeking to find a pure church where they could sing, where they could recite the scriptures, where they didn't have to read the King's prayer book and things of that sort. And God provided help from the Indians. Squanto, imagine he was an Indian, but he spoke perfect English. Massasoit, who did not speak English, was a man of peace, and Massasoit taught them about hunting and fishing, and the Pilgrims celebrated Thanksgiving, especially the following year in 1621. Thanksgiving is so important. 1 Thessalonians 5:18, verse 18 says that we are to give thanks in all circumstances. No matter what the circumstances, we're to give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. And of course, the Pilgrims were a perfect example of that. When the sun is shining, we need to give thanks. When the sky is dark and raining hard, we need to give thanks. There is no situation so adverse, so negative, that it renders Thanksgiving inappropriate. Thanksgiving is appropriate in all circumstances for the Christian. Even in November 2020, with the coronavirus pandemic, and the still undecided presidential election. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. The Pilgrims and the native population got along fairly well for some 60 years or so, and then after that time period, there were unscrupulous profiteers who came and, quote, captured many of the Native Americans and engaged in the slave trade. But I want you to know that slavery was not invented in America. There are some people who say that America is so bad, that the white people are so bad, that the Christians are so bad that we invented slavery. Nonsense. In ancient Greece, 30% of the population were slaves. In ancient Rome, 40% of the population were slaves. Slavery is not a white phenomenon. Arabs had slaves. Blacks had slaves. Have you ever heard of wars between black tribes in Africa, the Tutsis and the Hutus, the Rwandan genocide? Members of the Hutu majority party murdered some 800,000 people, mostly of the Tutsi minority. So give me a break. Don't blame slavery on white people or on black people. We're all bad. We're all sinners when we're born. We need to be born again. Slavery, oppression, human rights abuses, rape, trafficking, it's not an ethnic problem. It's a human problem. And Jesus Christ came to take care of that human problem. So as we come to Thanksgiving, are you thanking the Lord for the great gift of eternal life? Yes, happy Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to turkey. Hope you are too. And there are a lot of things I can thank God for. We can actually thank God for the last 4 years of the Trump administration. I really mean that. On November the 3rd, 2020, over 74 million, and probably many more, cast their votes to re-elect Donald Trump. People voted for Donald Trump because they trust him. Promises made and promises kept. People voted against him and voted for Joe Biden, not because Joe is so good, but because they hate Donald Trump. No president has been so scrutinized, so criticized, so reviled, so cursed and ridiculed by the liberal media and by the public in general than Donald Trump. They focus on the president's mannerisms, which they use against the president. They blame the conservative movement and so on and so forth. Donald Trump has done so many wonderful things. And so as we look at Donald Trump and as we think of the failed and baseless impeachment fiasco that was led by Nancy Pelosi, another disaster hit America. It was the coronavirus pandemic that overnight struck a blow at America's economy. The Democrats were happy. Now they had an opportunity to slam Donald Trump. It was a perfect setup for smashing all of America's great gains. Then things began to improve. You remember late April or May? But don't hold your breath. We can't have a stable America. So the riots started. People like George Soros were funding people you would see, we actually have videos of piles of bricks in towns where they smash windows and so forth. Where those bricks come from? Well, they were put there by people who hate America. Very foolish and literally very dangerous white police officer brutalized a black man, George Floyd, while the world watched and the cities started to burn. One thing after another. We have a great president, but there are some people who don't want a great president. You know why? Because they don't want America. They don't like what America stands for. They don't like religious liberty. They don't like the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, and all the precious freedoms and rights that we have. And so, as we think about that, I have a question for you, and it's a thought question. Here's a really good thought question. Why do we have people in high places in America who are not Americans? I want to say that again. Why do we have important, high-profile people who don't love America, who don't even know what America stands for? They may have a birth certificate to prove that they were born here. They may be American citizens, but friends, they're not Americans. You know why? Because America is not a place. America is an idea, and they don't support the American idea and the ideals of the United States of America. They hate the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, They're deeply dissatisfied with the U.S. Constitution. Why do we have people running for president who are not Americans in their heart? They may be a citizen. They may be born somewhere like Joe Biden. You know, he's been in government for 46 years. The only thing he's done in 46 years is gotten worse. He used to be a moderate. Now he's a rank liberal. Why do we have people like that? So is Joe Biden an American? Is Kamala Harris an American? Why are they expressing their desire to rejoin the Obama nuclear deal with Iran? Why do they want to give the Ayatollah's rogue regime access to billions of dollars to fund its military and terrorist proxies? I tell you why, because they hate America. And they're going to want to use the Ayatollahs to sink us, to bring us down. You know, Biden announced that he intends to nominate Tony Blinken to be Secretary of State. He was one of the Biden campaign aides who apologized to Linda Sarsour. Can you imagine? Now, if the Biden campaign could not stand up against an anti-Semite like her, how can we expect Biden to stand up against a world of thugs, dictators, and tyrants like the monster we have in China? His name is Xi Jinping. Here's something else that Biden is also going to do. He wants to bring John Kerry back as a special presidential envoy for climate change and giving him a seat on the National Security Council. You may recall that John Kerry has done so many things against America. He's maligned America. He believes that climate change is a more serious threat to our country than terrorism. So the question I initially asked is a good question. Why are we having people in high places who are really not Americans, who don't know what America stands for? And if they know what America stands for, they hate what America stands for. They're certainly not backing America. Like Jeremiah Wright, who has again said, I'm quoting him, "Not God bless America, but God damn America," close quotes. Now here's what's even worse. MSNBC's host Eddie Glaude said, quote, "Critics of Wright's damnation of America fail to understand the Reverend's theological nuance." Well, I understand the Reverend's theological nuance is not very much of a nuance at all. The man hates America, and he would like God to damn America. You know what I think? I think God still loves America, even though there's a lot of people in America who are really reprobates, and even many churches who are not doing the work that they should be doing. But I think that God has his hand on America. I believe we're going to be seeing some really great things happening. I think we have a great president. He recently said that he is not conceding to all of the corruption and the lies and the fraud in this election process. One of the things I like about Donald Trump is that he realizes that China is an enemy. You know, there are a lot of Democrats that want to deny that China is our enemy. So let's look at something concrete. In 1999, two Chinese military leaders published a book titled, quote, "Unrestricted Warfare, China's Master Plan to Destroy America." What do they want to do? They got a master plan to destroy America. As a matter of fact, it's on the newsstands. You can buy it, and it's translated into English. And so Joe Biden is such a dunce. He believes that the U.S. and China can cooperate for the betterment of both countries. Give me a break. Xi Jinping is a hard-line Marxist. He wants betterment, but not for America. He wants betterment for China itself. So Joe Biden is so outrageously naive. The communist doctrine insists that all enemies must be destroyed. There is no peaceful coexistence. Unfortunately, Americans have billions of dollars invested in companies in China that are affiliated with the Chinese military. President Trump's latest executive order bars U.S. investors from holding ownership stakes in a list of 31 Chinese companies. Do you know why? Because he doesn't want American capital building the Chinese military. They're going to use it against us. He doesn't want American capital building Chinese intelligence equipment. He's a smart man. I love our president. Now, here's something else. I want to be very frank. Joe Biden is morally bankrupt. Anybody who is running on a platform to slaughter babies, there's got to be something wrong with that person. You see, I just want to run down a few things. Biden would reverse Trump's actions on abortion and reproductive health care. He would reverse the Mexico City policy and restore funding to Planned Parenthood and contraceptive coverage for all the people who mess around and want the government to pay for their condoms. Give me a break. What is going on? This is so perverted. It's so corrupt. It's so wicked. It's unbelievable. So we have a real issue. And I pray that every Christian would pray. Because you see, this is not really a political issue. This is a spiritual issue. This is spiritual warfare. Just look at all the things that President Donald Trump has done. Backing Israel, saving lives, building a strong military, realizing that we stand in great peril from foreign enemies and so forth. And look what's on the other side. And I mean, we have to realize that there is something bad going on here. It's not for the good of America. It's for the detriment of America. Now, what's going on with the presidential election? Well, there's one word: fraud. There is a blockbuster video, witness statement, a poll challenger, her name is Artisha Bomer, who describes a 4 a.m. Biden ballot dump. Here is Artisha speaking about how she is shocked and how she saw what is so corrupt.
But every time they would say, "How we doing out there?" They was like, "Woo! Like we doing the proud. We got these. We got this." And I'm telling you, it was no other feeling in me but that feeling. Around, like I said, 4:03, they made the announcement. 50 boxes just came in. Woo! Who wants to count 50 more boxes? Who's happy about that?
When did
4:03 a.m.
What time? You said
it was around 4:03 a.m. in the morning.
Then this was the day after election.
This is November the 4th, going into the November the 4th.
This is late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning.
And they said 50 boxes?
They said, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to announce that 50 boxes just came in.
Why did they typically announce that new boxes had come in?
No. Within an hour, they said, "Well, thank you, you guys. You checked all of the boxes and they're all checked, and you can start cleaning off your tables." And woo! They were so happy.
So I'm sorry. What time did they say that again? That they had all been counted?
About around between 5 and 5:15 a.m.
Okay. Do you think you could count that many boxes in that amount?
You cannot count even one box that fast, because it's a process. You would have to give them the ballots. You would have to give them 50 apiece. You would have to have them come up and get them. Then they would have to go down. They would have to use this system at their table first before it even goes to the middle where the tabulators sit. Pay election workers at $600 a pop and more.
Yeah.
And guess what? You would think they're tired. Oh no. They made an announcement before they asked us to watch the ballot. You can take out your cell phones and you can use them. Just don't do any recording or take pictures. Everybody was clapping, woo! And that is totally against the rules. You are not supposed to have your cell phone out.
What did you think they allowed them to do that for?
Probably to just make them feel happy that they're stuck there, and maybe they can play a game while they sit there. Because some of them were getting bored, some of them were getting tired. You can see their face. Every time I observed a straight ticket or I saw Donald Trump's name circled in, they would shove it back in the envelope and they would put it back in the pile.
Every time?
Every time they saw it, they would shove. It was so many votes. They even had USPS boxes stacked up by the threes under each person. And on the top of those ballots was either red straight ticket or you can see Donald Trump's name shaded in. And they were all on the floors. All tables had these boxes. When I went around monitoring, they were all on the floors. They were either straight tickets or somebody shaded his name in and just went across the ballot with different shadings in other areas. And they were sitting on the floor. And so I asked the man that was sitting right here, why are these still sitting on the floor? He said, oh, they were already counted. But remember, we just started the counting a little bit past 11:30 p.m. on November the 3rd. So how could all those be counted that quick. It was impossible. They would override so many ballots that I saw. They would put in the scanner, and then on there it would say, "Are you sure you want to override to them?" Like something. In other words, it's a Republican ballot, but they went in and overrid the system, and they would take the mouse and click yes, and a green check mark would come in and says processed or something. I saw the tabulator. A man was spraying this chemical all up in there, just spraying. We don't know what it was. It had a long straw on it, like WD-40 stuff you would spray that puts the stem on it. He was just spraying all in the tabulator. The ballot numbers are usually right here, the barcodes, and you put it in like this. Well, in that part of the machine, he went in there and I saw him dig out and pull off whites. It looked like correction tape. Well, it was correction tape. Because not only I witnessed him walking around with this correction tape, but a lot of other people did as well, and they took notes. And as well, they had a huge cafeteria for the poll workers. They can eat and drink anything they wanted. But they had big, huge boxes under their table that belonged to them. They were super excited, and there's no way you're super excited unless you know something.
So wait, did you have access to go eat and drink whatever you wanted in this room as well, or was that?
No, we could not go in that room. They separated us. They had us always continue to go back to room 260.
Okay, the Republicans were in room 260, and who was in this other room with all the food and drink and everything?
Democrats.
Okay, got it. And there were boxes in there, you said.
They had them under their tables already. People had their own big, huge boxes and big coolers. And we was like, wow, no checking for security. I could have had 10 guns in my backpack. They didn't check for nothing. They just let you in. This is volunteer. This is for justice. And this is for to go to court, all the way to the Supreme Court if we have to. Because I saw what I saw. I made notes. And justice needs to be served. This election was cheated, and it needs to be redone.
But in the Wayne County election results, do you have any confidence in the results?
I don't have any confidence in any of the election process now after this fraud happened before my eyes. I'm traumatized by it. Someone put me in a hotel for the weekend so I can have rest, so I can be rested because I'm traumatized by this. It hurts my heart, my spirit, my soul, all the above. It's traumatizing.
Thank you.
I cried and everything, so this is serious. I don't know. I have never personally met Donald Trump in my life. My spirit is torn and everything. It took my whole faith out of the justice system. And I hope that with this interview, it can help justice move forward.
Now, friends, what about Dominion voting machines? You know, Fox News, who has defected from the conservative ranks, quotes a Dominion rep who says it is impossible that the voting machines could give the wrong information, that they could be recalibrated and so on and so forth. Well, computer experts disagree. In fact, in the following video, you will see expert witness to the contrary. That's very, very powerful witness from men who understand how computers work.
The voting machine is called the Image Cast Evolution, or ICE machine. It's made by Dominion.
The Dominion Voting Image Cast Evolution, or ICE, is an all-in-one accessible paper-based voting system.
This Image Cast Evolution voting machine has the physical ability to mark votes onto the ballot after the last time the voter sees the ballot. And that's a disaster if we lose the ability to trust that the paper trail really represents what the voter intended.
Andrew Appel is a professor of computer science at Princeton University.
My research is in software verification and election machinery.
He's an election security expert who has testified before Congress and been featured in Politico magazine.
Image Cast Evolution, where it's used in the United States. New Mexico in 2013, Ohio and Tennessee in 2013, California, Florida, Minnesota, Virginia, and Wisconsin in 2016.
The machine is a combination ballot marking device and optical scanner. According to information on the company's website, the voting machine is the only optical scan tabulator using a single ballot paper path. That means it's a printer and a scanner in one.
If the machine is hacked, then they can install software that marks votes on the ballot after the voter last saw it. And if the piece of paper can be marked by the computer after the last time the voter saw it, and the whole paper trail is compromised.
Security experts do not believe that the ICE machine is the only voting machine being sold with the ability to add votes to paper ballots. Appel and other computer scientists believe that two versions of the Express Vote, a ballot marking device by another company, ES&S, have the same capability. That machine has already been purchased by half a dozen states, sometimes, like in Philadelphia, over strong community opposition against expert advice.
These barcodes go against the recommendation of the Blue Ribbon Commission on Pennsylvania's election security.
And with indications that there were conflicts of interest in the procurement process.
There were many issues in this process that are troubling.
6 swing states have now purchased voting machines that security experts say have this problem.
So what we were able to do is to go out to an online auction site and buy 2 machines. Less than $100 is the cost of entry into your exploitation and vulnerability research. So this is what the machines look like when we booted them up. They're fully assembled. So now what we'll start to do is dissect them and see what we can find out as far as exploitation vectors. So I've only had access to this for a few minutes, I mean literally a few minutes, and I can already see the threat landscape of this machine. I have a DB9 port here. I see the chip for the operating system is not glued in. Pretty carefully I can pull that out. Now what that's going to allow me to do is to leave the machine behind, and I'm going to take this chip and put it inside of my reader writer and start looking at what's installed on it and what the OS has for exploitation potential. Another thing that's disconcerting to me with this is that this is the smart card, and on the back side of this I can see that the communications cable is not secured either. And that would allow for someone to put a shim in here. If someone wanted to install a defeat device, they could put it right here and then plug it back in so the smart card would function as normal, but it would change information as it goes in. All the model numbers are on these chips, which really they should have been removed or redacted or ground down. I mean, I can clearly see that this has 1 gigabyte, so I'm assuming that that is probably on the cache side of it. We have way too much information on here. All of these here start to have a piece of the puzzle that you can put together to start formulating your exploitation vectors. So what we have here is a smart card, and this is from our Hack the Vote initiative that we did. In this particular machine, there's 3 different cards. One's a supervisor card, the other is the actual voter card when someone goes in to vote, and then there's a 3rd card as well. So what would happen is that the person inserts the card, and we're going to see that it's not reading our card because we've yet to load it with the code. But the fact that it is detecting it is kind of interesting. We're going to look at some system logs. First of all, what strikes me as being interesting is that this is saying that it's using OpenSSL. It gives the version number, which is bad because if there are any exploits into that, then we know exactly what version it is. We can see that there was an administrator card that was inserted, and then it had the original date and time, and then we'll see down here where the date and time was set with the administrator card. Now, what's disturbing about that is that if this machine was to be booted up before the election day, someone could insert an administrator card and then pre-populate some votes. We see down here, this machine's actually done 1,434 votes from what we can tell. So with this, it's just kind of disturbing that someone could change the date to either close the precinct a few hours early or maybe pre-populate with some votes. We don't know quite what precinct this came from because it just says Stark County. So we're just going to see if we can find any other information in here. So what we see here now is 122 Myers Lake A, maybe Avenue. And that M Lake _ Can, don't know, maybe Canton, Ohio. And it says Party Democrat. So it says that there was a card created, and I guess maybe they are tracking if the card is for a Democrat or maybe some other party affiliation. So just having the precinct information, now I know what machines are being used in the precinct. So like I said, we have 2 different style voting machines, but we know for a fact that that precinct possibly uses this style. So if I'm going to exploit that precinct, I'm going to do it with this style machine. So that's That's some pretty good information. So if we look through here, whoa, what is this? What is this? Yeah, this isn't good here. So apparently something, let's see, something through this error. And with errors, you get a lot of information that could help. All right, so this machine error log was written on March 2013. However, this error was thrown in 6/11/2012. So to me, I would be looking at when the election happened. Did this error come before the election, during the election day, or after the election? But looking through here, there's a lot of information that we can gather. We see things like winstock.dll, so we know there's some communications that can happen here. Toolhelp.dll, all of these are DLLs that are associated with Windows components, but what that will allow us to do, things like with TaskMon and stuff like that, is to see, are there any exploits into these sub-processes? If so, it may lead to exploitation inside the machine. We also see that it's probably the main program is this ballot station.exe. We see a lot of those in there. So all these error logs are very good clues to what's going on. And the one thing that we found that was interesting was a little bit of clear text in here is TAHOMA. So not sure what that is. Maybe we will look and see if there's a candidate with that name or something, because that could let us know what was being displayed on the screen at the time the error was thrown. So you could imagine someone had an exploit into this, and every time someone tried to vote for that candidate, it throws an error and says, vote tabulated or stuff like that. So all of these things are telltale signs into what's happening with the machine. And with this error message, I'm going to research further and see if I can deduce what actually happened when this error message was thrown. So what we have here is the what they call the security status, right? And so here is the key hash where you see that they're using 128-bit AES encryption, which is good. But the one thing that's a little bit on the disturbing side is that this key has expired in July of 2013, but the issuer here doesn't appear to be one of the major issuers of certificates. Not saying that that's horrible, but that means whoever issued this ticket, the whole integrity around the communications and the encryption on this device resides on where this private key is. We don't know if this is on somebody's laptop that could be stolen. We don't know if this is inside of a secured air-gapped network, as most of the certificate authorities are, and stuff like that. After looking at this for the limited time, and looking at the amount of information that this device has given us, that's not necessary. And also, all this information is being gathered without us doing any kind of exploitation. We showed you a few things that we would start looking at, but the fact is that this machine booted up and presented us this information is a little bit disturbing. This is yet giving up more stuff. So we see that it says data transfer over SSL and TLS. So we know that there's some IP-based data transfers that can happen. We showed some communications chips on there. We see that there's user-defined security keys and supervisor pins. User-defined. That means that probably these devices, these pins are set once they go out to whatever district it is and stuff like that, because it says it's user-defined. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that is worrisome. And I'm pretty confident that with the amount of information this machine gives up, then we could develop a exploit into this, given how wide the vectors are and the landscape. So the first thing I would do is have a plan pre-formulated, and since the election data is housed on a glorified thumb drive, type thing. I would look at manipulating it that way. So it would be a simple, I walk up, I have my key for this, I pop something out, I put something in. That would be the vector. So the one thing that I am happy about is that this machine was for sale online. So hopefully this precinct has updated their machines. However, this same machine is probably one that's being used in one of 9,000 other precincts around the U.S.
President Trump, late Monday, November the 23rd, said he will never concede to fake ballots and Dominion. He called this the most corrupt election in American political history, and I think he's absolutely right. There have been so many things coming up. Dead people. They're the names of dead people voting for Joe Biden. There will be a lot of angry Biden supporters who will scream, Joe Biden is our president, and especially they will want to burn our cities when Donald Trump is our president for another 4 years. And Joe Biden contributed to the hysteria. You know what he did that Saturday after Election Day, November the 7th? He pronounced himself our new president. He did that deliberately. He knew that he might not be the new president, but he wanted to so inflame his supporters with the idea that Joe Biden is the president. And so if that changes, then people are going to really riot. They're going to scream. They're going to claim that Biden was the president, and now we've stolen all of that. And you know, that was picked up by the media. I remember on November the 7th, even Fox News claimed that Joe Biden is the new president. Now, he's not the new president. The media doesn't determine who has won the election, and we need to get ready for some stormy seas, because I think we're going to see a big flip in America. I think we're going to see who our real president is, and I think there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be very, very angry. So, friends, it's going to get a little exciting. Stand your ground, stand for truth, stand for God and country. God is not yet done with America. Happy Thanksgiving. I plan to see you next week.